Have you ever been in a situation where you liked a woman, maybe even more than you should admit, and you assumed you'd have to chase her to get her attention? You might have imagined endless texting, constant calls, or bending over backwards just to get a reaction. But then something unexpected happens. You stop chasing, step back, and instead of desperation, you act with calm confidence. And suddenly, she notices you in a completely different way. She starts to invest her time, energy, and attention into you almost without realizing it. Welcome to the channel. If you're tired of wasting energy being ghosted or feeling like you're always the one running after women, you're in the right place. Today, we're breaking down why women often expect men to chase and how flipping the script can shift attraction entirely. This isn't about games, manipulation, or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about understanding human psychology, creating tension, and using principles that naturally draw women in. Chasing is what most men default to. You show interest, she backs away slightly, and you push harder, thinking the more you chase, the more likely she'll respond. But this behavior often kills attraction. Women are wired to notice energy, boundaries, and self-possession more than words or effort. When a man stops chasing and instead projects calm, value, and self-control, the dynamic changes instantly. This approach isn't arrogance, it's self-mastery. Stoicism teaches that your happiness and worth are not determined by external validation. Applying this in dating means your energy isn't controlled by her responses. You engage when it matters, you maintain boundaries, and you let her curiosity and investment grow naturally. When she senses that you're not desperate or dependent on her approval, interest spikes because scarcity, tension, and challenge enter the equation. In this video, we'll break down 7 strategies that show exactly what doing this instead of chasing looks like in practice. From holding your value to creating strategic silence, from letting her invest emotionally to maintaining predictable calm, each principle is actionable, ethical, and rooted in human psychology. By the end, you'll know how to flip the script, stop chasing, and create interactions where women are drawn to you without you forcing it. Stay with me until the end because the final principle ties everything together. Apply it correctly, and not only will you attract her attention, but you'll also naturally command respect, interest, and emotional investment, all without the exhausting chase. 1. Stop chasing. Have you ever noticed that the more a man chases, the more a woman seems to pull away? Chasing is often the default reaction for men who feel uncertainty or fear of losing her. The moment she seems distant, your instinct is to text more, call more, or shower her with attention. What most men don't realize is that this behavior often destroys attraction rather than building it. Stopping the chase doesn't mean ignoring her or being cold. It means stepping back and reclaiming your energy. Chasing signals neediness and emotional dependence. Women are subconsciously attracted to stability, confidence, and self-possession. Qualities that are impossible to convey when you're constantly running after her. When you stop chasing, you create a subtle but powerful shift in the dynamic. Instead of pursuing, focus on yourself. Invest your time in your goals, hobbies, friendships, and personal growth. This doesn't just make you more interesting, it signals independence. Women are drawn to men who have full, purposeful lives because their attention isn't disposable. The less dependent you are on her validation, the more magnetic you become. Another key element is response management. When she texts or reaches out, respond. Thoughtfully, not immediately. Don't feel obligated to fill every pause with conversation. This isn't about playing games, it's about pacing the interaction and maintaining your emotional energy. By controlling your engagement, you subtly communicate that your presence is valuable and not to be taken for granted. Chasing often comes from a fear of losing control. Stoicism teaches that your power comes from mastering yourself, not controlling others. Apply this mindset in dating. You cannot force attraction, but you can manage your actions and energy. By letting go of the need to chase, you demonstrate internal control, which women sense immediately. Also, Observe her behavior without overreacting. If she seems distant or less responsive, avoid compensating with excessive attention or explanations. Instead, maintain calm, consistency, and confidence. This creates tension in the right way, allowing her curiosity to grow and prompting her to invest. Emotionally, physical presence matters too. Don't chase her physically or overextend energy to be near her constantly. When you meet, be fully present, confident, and engaged, but leave her wanting more. Your energy should be compelling, not exhausting. Ultimately, stopping the chase flips the script. Instead of reacting to her behavior, you set the pace and tone. You create a dynamic where she notices your value, respects your boundaries, and invests in the connection. Women are attracted to men who are confident, stable, and emotionally independent. Mastering the art of not chasing is about reclaiming your energy, demonstrating self possession, and letting attraction develop naturally. When done correctly, she will notice your confidence, respect your boundaries, and become genuinely curious about you without you having to force her attention. 2. Calm detachment. Have you ever noticed how some men seem untouchable, unshaken by tests, mixed signals, or minor setbacks? That energy comes from calm detachment. In dating, women often expect men to chase, overreact, or prove their interest constantly. When you instead respond with calm detachment, it flips the dynamic entirely, creating intrigue, respect, and attraction. Calm detachment isn't about being cold or uninterested, it's about emotional self control. A man who can engage without depending on her reactions demonstrates stability and confidence. Women subconsciously notice this because emotional independence signals strength. When your happiness and energy aren't dictated by her actions, you become magnetic. Most men fail at this because they overinvest emotionally in every interaction. A late response, playful teasing, or subtle test triggers anxiety, panic, or over explaining. Women can feel this neediness instantly, and attraction diminishes. Calm detachment allows you to engage thoughtfully and intentionally without being reactive. This creates tension and curiosity naturally, which women are wired to respond to. Detachment also involves pacing yourself. Don't rush replies, overext, or constantly follow up. Let conversations breathe. Respond when you have something meaningful to contribute, not just to fill silence. This shows that your attention and energy are valuable and that you are not desperate for validation. Scarcity enhances intrigue. Stoic principles support this mindset perfectly. Stoicism teaches that external events are neutral. It's our perception and response that determine our state. Applied to dating, this means her mood, interest, or actions do not control yours. You respond deliberately, maintaining composure and emotional independence. This is power in its purest form. Calm detachment also applies in person. Maintain relaxed posture, steady eye contact, and deliberate gestures. Let her take the lead in certain aspects of conversation or planning. Women are drawn to men who remain grounded, who don't overreact to small shifts in mood or attention. Your presence becomes magnetic because it communicates stability and control. Another advantage of detachment is that it naturally encourages her to invest. When a man is overly available or needy, women often pull away unconsciously because there's no tension or challenge. Detachment introduces subtle tension. She notices your value, your independence, and begins to invest her attention and energy willingly. Finally, calm detachment protects your energy. You're not drained by every reaction, test, or perceived rejection. You operate from a place of self possession, which is inherently attractive. Women feel it and respect it subconsciously. Mastering calm detachment means engaging without dependency, responding without panic, and maintaining composure regardless of external circumstances. It flips the expectation that men must chase and instead creates a dynamic where she notices you, respects your boundaries, and invests willingly. 3. Hold your value. Have you ever noticed how some men seem untouchable as if their attention is a privilege rather than a given? That's the power of holding your value. When a woman expects you to chase, most men immediately compromise their energy, attention, or standards just to maintain interest. The result? Attraction fades, respect diminishes, and the dynamic flips. Holding your value flips the script entirely. Holding your value starts with understanding your worth. Your time, attention, and energy are limited and precious. When you treat them as such, women notice subconsciously. Men who overextend, overext, or overcommit signal neediness. Men who hold their value signal strength, independence, and self-respect. This is magnetic because scarcity creates curiosity and desire. A key aspect of holding value is consistency. Don't overreact to her moods, tests, or mixed signals. Maintain your behavior, energy, and boundaries regardless of how she responds. Predictability in your calmness communicates internal strength, while unpredictability and desperation communicates weakness. Women respect men whose value doesn't fluctuate based on external validation. Boundaries reinforce value. Protect your time and energy. If she cancels plans or behaves inconsistently, respond with composure, not panic. Stick to your routines, goals, and standards. When a man maintains boundaries, he communicates that his presence is earned, not given freely. This naturally increases attraction because it forces her to engage thoughtfully and invest emotionally. Holding your value also applies to conversation. Don't fill every silence with chatter or compliments. Speak deliberately. Share your opinions, stories, and energy selectively. Women notice men whose words carry weight because they are rare and intentional. Excessive talking or over-explaining dilutes perceived value and signals dependence. Confidence is another cornerstone. Hold your value by projecting self-assurance in actions, decisions, and physical presence. Move deliberately. Make eye contact and maintain composure. When your energy communicates that you are in control of your life, women sense stability and strength, qualities they are naturally drawn to. Scarcity is part of value too. Being constantly available reduces perceived importance. A man who is selective about where, when, and how he invests his energy creates tension and desire. This isn't about games or manipulation. It's about prioritizing yourself and your growth above the need for immediate validation. Finally, holding your value ensures that she invests as much as you do. Women respond positively when they feel they must engage to earn your attention and respect. This shifts the dynamic from chasing to mutual investment. You create a connection where she is drawn to you willingly because you demonstrate that your energy is finite and meaningful. Mastering the art of holding your value is about prioritizing yourself, enforcing boundaries, and maintaining composure. When you do this consistently, the dynamic flips. She notices you, respects your space, and begins to invest emotionally. Attraction grows naturally because you project strength, independence, and scarcity, the ultimate combination for modern dating. 4. Let her invest. Have you ever noticed that the more effort a man puts in, the less a woman sometimes values it? It's counterintuitive, but it's true. Attraction grows when she invests, not when you chase. Letting her invest is one of the most powerful strategies in modern dating. It flips the expected dynamic and creates a magnetic tension that naturally draws her closer. Letting her invest starts with patience. Resist the urge to constantly initiate contact, make plans, or over-explain your feelings. When you step back, you create space for her to show interest voluntarily. Women are wired to value what requires effort. If you give too much too soon, you unintentionally reduce your perceived worth. Emotional investment is key. Allow her to express herself, share experiences, and engage in meaningful conversation without taking over the interaction. Ask questions that require thought, listen actively, and give her room to reveal herself. When a woman invests emotionally, She feels a sense of ownership in the connection, which deepens attraction naturally. Financial and time investment matters too. Don't always be the one paying or planning every date. Give her opportunities to contribute, whether it's splitting costs, suggesting activities, or initiating plans. This reinforces the dynamic of mutual interest and shows that your presence and attention are valuable, not guaranteed. Letting her invest also creates tension. Women notice when a man is self contained and not constantly available. This subtle imbalance, the fact that you have your own life, goals, and energy, encourages her to engage more intentionally. She starts thinking about how to capture your attention, which builds curiosity and desire. Stoic principles reinforce this strategy. Detachment from outcomes means your energy isn't controlled by whether she invests or not. You focus on your own growth, composure, and life direction while allowing her to take initiative in the interaction. This balance communicates strength, independence, and internal security, qualities that are inherently attractive. Body language and presence amplify this. When you are calm, composed, and engaged without being overbearing, she senses your confidence. Physical presence, eye contact, posture, and deliberate gestures signals that you are grounded, available for interaction on your terms, and not desperate for her approval. This encourages her to meet you halfway. Finally, letting her invest builds long-term attraction. Women naturally respect men who are consistent, confident, and selective with their attention. By allowing her to contribute to the interaction, she experiences both emotional and cognitive investment, which strengthens connection and heightens desire. Mastering this principle is about restraint, patience, and awareness. Step back, observe, and allow her to engage and invest. The more she contributes emotionally, mentally, and socially, the more attraction grows. You stop chasing, flip the dynamic, and create a connection built on mutual investment, respect, and genuine curiosity. 5. Strategic silence. Have you ever noticed that some men say less but somehow hold all the attention? That's the power of strategic silence. Most men overcompensate by talking too much, explaining too much, or reacting impulsively to everything a woman does. Strategic silence flips the dynamic, creating curiosity, tension, and attraction without needing to chase or overexert energy. Strategic silence isn't about being rude or cold. It's about knowing when to speak, when to pause, and when to let presence do the talking. Silence communicates confidence because it shows you're comfortable in your own energy. You don't need constant validation, explanations, or reassurance. Women subconsciously notice when a man isn't desperate to fill the space, and it draws them in. One of the most powerful uses of silence is in-response timing. Don't feel pressured to reply immediately to every text or message. Thoughtful, deliberate responses communicate composure and self-possession. When you over-respond, women may perceive it as neediness. When you respond selectively, your energy becomes scarce and valuable, which naturally creates tension and interest. Silence also works in conversation. Don't feel the need to over-explain yourself or justify your actions. If she teases you, challenges you, or tests you, pause before responding. That pause signals confidence and thoughtfulness. A calm, measured reply after a brief silence carries more weight than an immediate, reactive answer. Women sense this subtle power and are naturally drawn to it. Body language amplifies strategic silence. Maintain relaxed posture, steady eye contact, and controlled gestures. A man who doesn't rush to fill the room with words communicates that his presence alone carries weight. The quiet, confident energy signals internal mastery, which is inherently attractive. Silence also encourages her to invest. When you step back and allow space, she begins to fill it mentally, emotionally, and sometimes physically. She will engage more thoughtfully, ask questions, and contribute more actively because the Interaction feels balanced rather than one sided. This shift from you chasing to mutual engagement strengthens attraction significantly. Stoic principles reinforce the value of strategic silence. Detachment from outcomes and control over reactions allows you to operate without anxiety or compulsion. By observing without reacting impulsively, you maintain emotional independence. This doesn't make you distant. It makes you grounded, predictable in calmness, and magnetic in presence. Finally, strategic silence protects your energy. Over talking or over investing leads to burnout and reduces perceived value. By speaking selectively, pausing when necessary, and allowing your presence to carry meaning, you conserve energy while amplifying attraction. Mastering strategic silence is about balance, engaging without overexerting, responding without panic, and letting presence do the heavy lifting. When executed consistently, women notice, respect, and are drawn to your energy naturally without the need for desperate chasing. 6. Confidence over approval. Have you ever noticed how some men seem effortlessly attractive while others struggle no matter how much effort they put in? The difference isn't looks, money, or even charm, it's confidence. Confidence over approval is one of the most powerful tools in modern dating. Women are instinctively drawn to men who value themselves more than the validation of others. When you stop seeking approval, you stop chasing, and attraction skyrockets. Confidence over approval begins with self respect. Know your worth and act accordingly. Don't bend over backward to accommodate every whim, opinion, or test. Men who constantly seek approval signal insecurity and neediness, which reduces attraction. Women notice when a man prioritizes his own energy, time, and values, and they are drawn to that strength. One way to demonstrate confidence is through decisiveness. Make choices in your life, your interactions, and even in simple things like planning a date or picking a place to meet. Don't hesitate or over-consult. Women respect men who can take the lead because it signals competence and emotional security. Confidence isn't about dominance. It's about clarity of purpose and self-possession. Confidence also shows in how you handle challenges or subtle tests. When a woman teases, tests, or pushes boundaries, respond calmly and deliberately. Don't overreact or try to impress. Your composed energy communicates that your internal state isn't dependent on external validation. Women feel this stability and are naturally drawn to it because it creates tension, intrigue, and respect. Another aspect is physical and verbal presence. Stand tall, maintain steady eye contact, and use deliberate gestures. Speak with authority, but without arrogance. A man who projects calm confidence communicates internal mastery. Women are wired to notice these subtle cues, and they respond instinctively to men who carry themselves with assured energy. Confidence over approval also applies to communication patterns. Don't over-explain, over-apologize, or seek constant reassurance. Respond thoughtfully, set boundaries, and maintain selective engagement. This demonstrates self-possession and scarcity, which naturally heightens attraction. When women sense a man is not dependent on their approval, their curiosity and investment increase. Stoicism reinforces this principle. Detachment from outcomes and control over emotional reactions ensures that your energy remains consistent regardless of external events. You don't need to chase or manipulate. Your confidence alone sets the tone. When your actions align with your values, women instinctively recognize your internal strength. Finally, confidence over approval flips the dating dynamic. Instead of reacting to every test, mood, or fluctuation in attention, you maintain composure and self-assurance. This not only protects your energy, but also forces women to engage, invest, and respect your boundaries. Attraction grows naturally when you operate from confidence, not dependency. Mastering this principle means prioritizing your own value, responding without seeking validation, and maintaining steady, grounded energy. When you consistently demonstrate confidence over approval, women notice, invest, and attraction builds effortlessly without the exhausting chase. 7. Consistent boundaries. Have you ever noticed how some men command respect effortlessly while others struggle even when they try hard? The difference often comes down to boundaries. Women are naturally drawn to men who know their limits and enforce them consistently. When she expects you to chase, but you maintain firm, consistent boundaries, it flips the dynamic entirely. Attraction grows because you signal self respect, control, and value, all without desperate effort. Boundaries start with your time. A man who makes himself constantly available communicates low value. When you are selective about your attention and prioritize your goals, hobbies, and personal growth, you create scarcity and intrigue. Women are drawn to men who have full, purposeful lives because your presence is not guaranteed. It's earned. Emotional boundaries are equally important. Don't let her mood, swings, teasing, or subtle tests dictate your emotional state. Maintain composure, respond thoughtfully, and don't overreact. Women notice emotional stability, and it signals that you are grounded, confident, and in control. Being predictable in your calmness while selective in your investment creates a magnetic tension. Physical boundaries matter too. Respect personal space and avoid overfamiliar gestures too early. Overstepping these lines communicates desperation or entitlement, which kills attraction. A man who maintains respectful physical boundaries projects maturity, awareness, and emotional intelligence, all qualities women subconsciously respect and desire. Consistency is key. Boundaries lose power if enforced inconsistently. If you occasionally bend rules when it's convenient or overcompensate to gain attention, it signals weakness. Women notice inconsistency, even subtly, and it undermines respect. Firm, predictable boundaries communicate strength and reliability. Boundaries also encourage her investment. When she knows that your time, attention, and energy are limited, she is more likely to engage intentionally. Instead of relying on you to chase or initiate constantly, she steps up. This creates a healthy dynamic of mutual investment where both parties contribute meaningfully to the connection. Stoicism reinforces the importance of boundaries. External events are neutral, it's your judgment and response that create power. Protecting your energy, prioritizing your needs, and maintaining composure aligns perfectly with Stoic principles. By controlling yourself rather than trying to control others, you project inner mastery, which naturally attracts women. Finally, consistent boundaries protect your long-term value. Men who give too much too soon or allow disrespect diminish their perceived worth. By enforcing limits consistently, you create a space where she must earn your attention and respect. This shifts the dynamic from chasing to mutual engagement, making attraction effortless. Mastering consistent boundaries is about clarity, discipline, and emotional independence. When applied alongside strategies like calm detachment, strategic silence, confidence over approval, and letting her invest, boundaries amplify your presence, magnetism, and value. Women are drawn to men who respect themselves, protect their energy, and engage on their own terms. Attraction isn't built on chasing, it's built on control, confidence, and presence. By stopping the chase, practicing calm detachment, holding your value, letting her invest, using strategic silence, prioritizing confidence over approval, and enforcing consistent boundaries, you shift the dynamic entirely. Women are drawn to men who protect their energy, act with self-possession, and engage intentionally. When you master these principles, you don't have to force attention or approval. Attraction grows naturally, respect deepens, and interactions become effortless. Stop chasing.